Okay, yeah. In chapter 9, then we're going to move into chapter 9. It is a fantastic chapter, especially from verse 11 on through to the end.
فصل 9 که میرسیم فصل فوق‌العاده‌ای است، مخصوصاً از آیه 11 به بعد.
The first 10 verses basically are talking about the better sanctuary. The better sanctuary now in heaven.
10 تا آیه اول بیشتر صحبت می‌کنه در مورد یک قدس بهتری الان در آسمان.
So I want to give you talk about the different articles of furniture in the earthly sanctuary, and kind of give you the symbolism that corresponds in the New Testament.
یک سری اون وسایلی که بود، اشیایی که داخل قدس بود، به صورت سمبولیک کنایه داشت از اون اتفاقی که قرار هست در آسمان بیفته.
There was the altar, the brazen altar. So these are things that are not necessarily listed here, but are part of the furniture of the earthly sanctuary.
و شاید همش اینجا فهرست نداشته باشه، ولی توی اون مثلا قدس جزو وسایلی بود که توش بودش.
Basically, you just say the altar, you know, which and the symbolism is.
ما میخوایم به صورت ساده بگیم منظور اینجا مذبح هستش و چیزایی که درش بود.
And that points us to the cross, the death of Christ.
و اون ما رو میبره به عیسی مسیح و مرگ عیسی مسیح، اون مذبح.
And then there's the thing we call in English the laver, the where you washed.
و در صحبت میکنه تا جایی که میشستن چیزی رو.
And that points us to our need for daily cleansing. 1 John 1:9.
و این ما رو میبره به سمت نیاز هر روزه ما برای شستشو. اول یوحنا 1:9.
And then there was the candlestick.
و بعد اونجا شمعدونی وجود داشت.
That points us to the fact that it's the candlestick was the light of believers.
شمعدونی به اصطلاح سمبل نور ایماندار بود.
And then there was the table of the bread of the presence.
و همچنین مثلا اون میزی بود که روش نان رو میذاشتن یا من رو میذاشتن.
That is symbolic of our food. Christ is our food, what sustains us.
و اون سمبل این هست که عیسی مسیح غذای ما هست. عیسی مسیح چیزی هست که ما رو روی پا نگه می‌داره.
And then finally there was the altar of incense, and that points us to Christ as our intercessor.
و بعدی اون مذبح بخور.
All right, I want to point out something to you. I hope I don't regret doing this because it's very difficult to explain. And but I want to point it out to you just so you'll know it's there. And that is that there's a problem here in this text with it appears that he is saying that the golden altar of incense was in the most holy place, was in the Holy of Holies. And in reality, it wasn't actually behind the curtain in the Holy of Holies.
من یه چیزی رو میخوام به شما بگم چون خیلی سخت توضیح دادن، شما دارم پشیمون نشم از گفتنش. تو اینجا نوشتهش انگار که این به اصطلاح مذبح طلایی در قدس الاقدس قرار داره و ما میدونیم که مذبح در قدس الاقدس قرار نداشت.
I was talking to a good friend recently. He's beginning to entertain some kind of crazy theological ideas, and he believes, see here, there's a mistake in the Bible. This guy is wrong. He made a mistake.
من با دوستی در ارتباط هستم که شروع کرده به عوض کردن الهیاتش و شکاک شده و یه همچین چیزی رو پیدا می‌کنه که ببین کتاب مقدس هم اشتباه وجود داره.
So he thinks that means how can the Bible be the inspired word of God if it has mistakes in it like this?
من میگه اگر تو کتاب مقدس اشتباه هست چطوری میتونه الهام گرفته شده از خداوند باشه؟
But I would just say a couple of things. First of all, it's impossible to believe that the writer of this letter, who clearly knew a whole lot about the Old Testament and the Jewish sacrificial system, could have made a mistake like this. He knew exactly what he was saying.
اولین چیز اینه که امکان نداره نویسنده این رساله که خیلی بیشتر از ما در مورد شرایط سیستم قربانی کردن عهد قدیم و یهودی‌ها میدونسته در مورد هم چیزی بیاد اشتباه بکنه.
Notice that I don't know how it does it in Farsi, but in Greek, in English, there's a participle there at the beginning of verse 4. He talks about behind the second curtain was the most holy place, having the golden altar of incense and the Ark of the Covenant. What does it say in Farsi?
In it.
In it?
And in it was the golden altar.
Yeah, okay, like in which was the golden altar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In which was the golden altar.
Which is not what it says in the Greek, but it says having, and it didn't have it either. It wasn't inside it per se. But if you read the history of the interpretation of this verse, again, you've got all kinds of different ways of trying to explain this. Martin Luther had a way, and all kinds of different, every major scholar and interpreter down through the history of the church has tried to find a way to explain this. And it's very difficult. Very difficult.
و خیلی اگر برید بخونید تاریخ تشریح این آیه رو همه جور طرز فکر و نظر وجود داره. مارتین لوتر یه چیز خاصی می‌خواسته بگه، نظر خودش رو بده، چون خیلی سخته اینجا.
The altar of incense, which was actually in the holy place, just adjacent to the curtain going into the Holy of Holies, was constantly having incense burned on it and which symbolized prayers to God, and the smoke from that incense would fill everything and go even into the Holy of Holies.
Mm-hmm.
So that it could be said that there was a very close association with the altar of incense and the Holy of Holies.
این مثلا مذبح طلایی که در قدس وجود داشت بغل جلوی اون پرده حجابی بود که به قدس الاقدس میرسید و اون قربانی های بخوری رو که اینا میدادن همه جا دودش میگرفت تا حدی که وارد قدس الاقدس هم میشد.
So what the author probably has in his mind here is that there was this a liturgical tradition that according to what this guy says, that recognized a very close doctrinal association between the altar of incense and the Ark of the Covenant, inside the Holy of Holies.
و بر اساس نوشته این شخص یک سنتی وجود داشت که چون روی این مذبح این به اصطلاح قربانی‌های بخور رو میدادن و این حرکت میکرد دیگه اونجا ثابت نبود این بخور میگفتن کاملا ارتباط مستقیم داشت، اگرچه در قدس بود، با قدس الاقدس.
I want to show you a verse in 1 Kings, I think it's 1 Kings, chapter 6, verse 22. If you want to turn to that. 1 Kings, chapter 6, verse 22.
اول پادشاهان 6:22 رو باز کنید.
This is a passage, it's a great passage of Solomon building the temple.
اینجا جایی هستش که سلیمان داره معبد یا هیکل رو بنا میکنه.
And basically I'll have you read verse 22 and just point out, he overlaid the whole house with gold until all the house was finished. Also the whole altar that belonged to the inner sanctuary, he overlaid with gold. So it seems that he's saying there was an altar there that belonged to that inner Holy of Holies, even though it wasn't inside the curtain,
but belonged to it.
It belonged to it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the author of Hebrews has in mind here.
آیه 22 میگه تمامی خانه را به طلا پوشانید تا همگی خانه تمام شد و تمامی مذبح را که پیش روی محراب بود به طلا پوشانید. این محراب منظورش همون قدس الاقدسه. انگار که این مذبح درسته که از نظر موقعیت مکانی توی قدس الاقدس نبود، ولی متعلق بود به قدس الاقدس. متوجه شدین؟
You know, I think if you have a heart that is soft toward God and willing to believe His Word is inspired and it's perfect and beautiful in every way, you read a difficult passage like this and you can say, Lord, I may not really fully understand this. I don't know exactly what's going on here, but I trust you that your Word is true and perfect and good.
من فکر میکنم اگه قلب نرمی رو در مقابل خداوند داشته باشیم، مخصوصا وقتی که کلام خداوند رو مطالعه میکنیم، به جایی که بیایم سریع بگیم ایراد وجود داره، وقت بذاریم فکر کنیم، خداوند از همون کلامش هم جوابش رو به ما میده. تا که سریع بخوایم بگیم ایراد داره کلام.
So just in case in the off chance that somebody from some other group comes up to you and says, I know where there's a mistake in the Bible. How can you believe in inspiration when it has mistakes? And they go and they point out Hebrews chapter 9, verse 4. Then you can say, well, let me show you a verse over there in 1 Kings chapter 6. And there's a way to explain it. It's a little bit unclear, but there is a good way to explain it. If you're trying to really believe that it's true.
پس اگر یه موقع یکی اومد به شما گفتش که بیا بهت نشون بدم کتاب مقدس ایراد داره، تو عبرانیان 9:4 اینو داره میگه، این چیه؟ شما میتونید بهش بگی بذار بهت اول پادشاهان 6:22 رو نشون بدم که نوعی میشه اینو توضیح داد. پس درسته که پیچیده هست، ولی راهی هم وجود داره که بشه توضیح هم دادش.
So the author wants to apply a distinctively Christian interpretation to these things in the Holy of Holies. So there's a very good reason for him to emphasize the smoke from the incense going right into where God dwells. Holy of Holies.
نویسنده به دنبال این هستش که از این تصویر قدس و الاقدس یک کاربرد مسیحی بگیره و میخواد بگه که اون بخور و اون دودی که اونجا روی مذبح بود، اگرچه بیرون اون پرده حجاب بود، وارد قدس الاقدس میشد.
Sometimes I wonder why, I want to say, Lord, why did you inspire the author of Hebrews to say that? When you knew it was going to cause so much misunderstanding and so much confusion. Lord, why did you do that? But he has his purposes. He wants us to trust him.
من از این موقع خداوند میخوام بگم که چرا اجازه دادی این آیه نوشته بشه وقتی میدونستی که مشکل ساز خواهد شد، ولی اون میخواد که ما بهش اطمینان هم داشته باشیم وقتی که مشخص نیست چیزی.